What's up everybody and welcome back. First off, I obviously have to say thank you because we hit 1,000 subscribers. It's fantastic, but now we begin the road to 10,000, which seems like it'll be a steeper climb, but I believe that we can get there with your support. So if you enjoyed the video, like it, subscribe, it is greatly appreciated. So I have another recommendation for you today, and this manga really just came out of nowhere for me in the sense of I saw it, clicked on it, started reading it, and I couldn't stop. So that's always a good sign for me. Because today I'm recommending Thief Bought a Slave Girl, which is being written by Aramaki Hemon. And so far it's 19 chapters, and it's an adventure, fantasy, harem, romance, seinen, slice of life. That's an adaptation of a web novel. So maybe some of you know it, maybe some of you have read it. I don't read web novels, maybe you do. If you do, let me know some that I should actually check out, because I'm not opposed to it. I've just never actually tried to read a web novel. So let me know some good ones. But what this is about is really the title of the manga. It's about a thief who buys a slave girl, and the thief's name is Harris, and he's not like a thief as in just a thief, like a bad guy thief. He's an adventurer with the job of thief or scout. I don't really know, because it kind of goes back and forth between calling him a thief and calling him a scout. Maybe they're considered the same thing in this world, I'm not sure, but he's a thief and a scout, and because of that he's shunned and has a poor reputation. Partly that's his fault. It's not just because of his class, but partly it is his class. Outside of it being his class just being shunned and having a bad reputation, he does get drunk, and he's kind of known a little bit as a drunk, and that's really how we're first introduced to him, is as a drunk, because after a dungeon dive with some party team up that I guess he normally teams up with, he decides to get drunk because he gets rejected by a girl, and then he gets rejected by a brothel. So he's not feeling so great, so he gets drunk and ends up buying a slave girl named Tiana. Now when he wakes up and sees that he actually bought this slave girl, he obviously wants to return her, because he's like, I just wasted all my money on a slave girl that I didn't mean to buy because I was drunk when I bought her. Originally he wanted to sell her back, but then he finds out that he would be ripped off because he wouldn't be able to sell her for what he bought her for, which was a few gold coins, and then he'd get like silver coins back or something, and he was like, I don't want to do that. And on top of that, he finds out that she would then just be sold to a coliseum and get killed. So he changes his mind, because he's not a bad guy. It's just most people don't like him. But after finding out that he'd get ripped off and that she would die, he obviously changes his mind, and he decides to keep her in the hopes that she'll grow into some beautiful lady later. Fortunately though, that's not really how the story progresses, in the sense of his goal is basically to have her grow into some beautiful slave girl that he has. It really evolves into him just taking care of her, and the more he starts taking care of her, the more he starts wanting to take care of her, because it really, like, he bought a slave girl, but it's kind of like he adopted a daughter. And the closer that he gets to her, the more he takes care of her, the better care he takes of her. His reputation grows from being a drunk that you can't trust because he's a thief class, to really people being like, oh, Harris isn't such a bad guy. And in part, it's because people see this side of Harris that they didn't see before. Not that he didn't have, it's just that they automatically judged him for his class and kind of shunned him for it. Not saying that people just outright hated him, because I don't think they did. They were just like cautious around him. Well, he's a thief, so we gotta be on the lookout. And then he also operated like a drunk, so obviously that didn't help. But really, this is kind of what this story is about, and it's really what I love about it, which is their father-daughter relationship that they have, and I'm hoping that's what it stays, because it's so nice. I don't want it to turn into like, as she gets older, she falls in love with him, starts getting feelings for him. I don't want that, because first of all, Harris looks like he's late 30s, and she looks like she's 8 or 10. Maybe she's like 12. I don't know. She's really skinny because she's a slave. But I don't want them to have like a relationship. I know it's romance. I know there's romance in it. I know there's harem in it, at least in the tags. So far, not in the manga. But I don't want it to turn into that, because the father-daughter thing, it's just so good. It is my draw to this manga, is their relationship. Not not what their relationship can be in the sense of a romantic one, but their relationship as it is now, as a father-daughter thing. And I know that it says harem, and Harris did allow another adventurer, Gina, to stay with them, and that original party that he adventures with has 2 women in it, so I don't know if they will somehow come into being some kind of harem for him. Honestly, I kind of hope it doesn't, because the excuse for Gina really becoming a part of the story is that she could teach Tiana how to read, write, and do math. Not because Harris wants to exploit her, because he thinks it would be good for her to be able to do these things, to know how to do these things, so that she could have independence. But I wouldn't mind if it progressed with Tina, because they're closer to the same age, obviously, and she's not his slave, but then it could also be like a family story. But I don't know if that's gonna happen, because again, it says harem, and since it's based on a web novel, maybe there is an actual harem already going on in it, but I'm hoping it's a harem in the sense of multiple girls like Harris, but aren't necessarily around, which I'm sure some of you have seen before, where it's a harem, but there's really one main girl, there's other girls that like the main guy, but they're not really in the picture, in the sense of they're not living under the same roof and interacting all the time. So I'm hoping it's one of those distance harems than it is an actual one, because so far I love it, and I love it because of the wholesomeness that it is and that it's been, and the wholesomeness of their father-daughter relationship, because it's fantastic, because we see them just grow closer to each other. Harris wants to take care of her. Harris wants to provide for her. Harris is like, I gotta do more jobs so that I can feed her. I want to get her better clothes. I want to provide a better life for her, because he feels bad for her, because he sees himself in her. I don't think that he was a slave before. I mean, maybe he was, but what initially attracts him to her, at least when he was drunk to purchase her, is that when he looked at her, he felt like they understood each other, in the sense of they were kind of societal outcasts. At least I think that's what it was. I might be reading a little more into it, but he said that he saw himself in her, and that's even while in the drunken stupor why he got her. And I outright just love wholesome relationship building manga. And they don't have to be romantic like this one. Again, I know romance is a tag, but I'm really hoping that romance between them isn't a thing. Not that I don't mind stories where there's romance between a slave and master. I just don't want a romance between a child and an adult. You know what I'm saying? Because this isn't one of those like Raftalia is gonna grow up to be 18 because she starts eating better food kind of thing. And unless Harris is apparently like early 20s, maybe he just looks like he's been through a whole lot, because he probably has, then that age gap is just way too much, even if they do like a flash forward. But I don't think that's the way it's gonna go. At least 19 chapters in, it doesn't feel like it's gonna go that way at all. It feels like he's really just gonna raise her basically as his daughter, which is fantastic. The wholesomeness is great, because they really need each other. Tiana obviously needs him, because otherwise she'd probably be just beaten, killed, sold to the Coliseum, or some other creep. Whereas Harris needs Tiana, because he's not a bum when he's with her, because he's kind of a bum before he buys her, in the sense that he was a drunk, kind of, and people didn't really like him, and he wasn't really personable. But with Tiana, he's a much better person, because with Tiana in his life, people are seeing the relationship between the two, and it's really mending his image with people. And how couldn't it, when Tiana is always telling people about how great and kind he is? Because even though Tiana was sold by her family and beaten like really bad, like the first thing Harris did was he had to get her healed at the temple because she could barely walk. So like she was like really messed up. But because of these things, because of how much Tiana loves him, because of how nice he is to her, because of how much she talks him up, people are like, man, Harris isn't that bad of a guy. Maybe we misjudged him. So it's kind of like a healing arc for both of them. His character is healed, while she is like, I guess just all around healed. But so far, Tiana is obviously super cheerful. She's super nice. She doesn't seem to have any PTSD, which is, you know, good for her. Maybe it'll happen sometime later, but so far she seems perfectly fine. And she's just all around great and adorable. While Harris is kind of rough and gruff, but soft to her, which is always nice. Because again, seeing it in a father-daughter relationship is just fantastic. But like I said before, my real hope with this manga is that it stays on the father-daughter storyline. with them just becoming more and more like family. I don't think it needs to become some Tiana becomes an adventurer and they go dungeon crawling kind of story and Harris gets a harem. I think it really just needs to stay what it is. At least I hope it's gonna stay what it is. Again, if he gets a harem in the sense that multiple girls like him, but they're distant, I'm fine with that. As long as the main focus is the relationship between Harris and Tiana. Now that may already be in the web novel. Again, I don't read it, so you'll have to let me know. But my hope is that it basically just stays a redemption and healing family story for the both of them. Because that's the real draw, the real appeal, and what I really enjoy about it so far. And as it is, I could definitely see it getting an anime in the future. I mean, like 2 years from now at least. But if it continues with this story, I think a lot of people will enjoy it. If it seems interesting to you, if you want to read a wholesome manga about healing, about a father-daughter relationship, well, this is a new one and it is fantastic so far. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out the TooTaku podcast. Thank you once again for getting us to 1,000 subscribers. Other than that, I will see all of you in the next one.